What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How you doing? Happy Sunday. Hope everybody's doing well. We have a very special guest today. You can see him down here. The one and only Aaron Berk from Harlan J Berk. Good day, Aaron. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing very good. I think we have a little bit of a delay. I don't know if it's just on my end or
Yeah, I don't know. I hear this beeping in the background.
I'm getting a delay, sort of, as well.
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of one with this. That's one thing I've noticed.
Hold on a second.
Alexa, turn off the alarm.
Oh, that's your alarm?
like time to get up. Well, hey, thank you so much for being here. Well, I'm going to do my normal welcome introduction to everybody. So again, happy Sunday. Lots of people returning back from the fun show. Heard there were great things about the fun show. Siren, thank you so much for modding on both sides. Jack Riley's in here. Hey, Jack, what's going on? Vote for Pedro. I know Vote for Pedro's got a bunch of questions for Aaron. Me, how you doing? Jack Young is here. Good to see you, brother. Coins making sense. Hey, Kevin, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Hope everything is going well. I appreciate you all being here. So before we begin, there's one question that I have for Aaron. And I want to ask him what the problem is in identifying planchets and blanks.
Difference between planchets and blanks
Well,
on ancient coins?
They're just hard to make heads or tails out of. Sorry.
But he'll be here all week.
Stupid dad joke. I'm
I
sorry.
don't really understand that question.
Just a dumb dad joke. I'm sorry. I was trying to be funny.
Okay.
He's like,
sorry, too early. Didn't catching it.
All right, folks. Well, again, if you are,
I'm getting ready for an ancient coin question, and I'm like,
no worries. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you guys are not familiar with, and you should be, Aaron Berk, he is with Harlan J Berk, family owned and operated, the oldest coin show in the U.S., if I remember correctly. A fabulous coin shop, lots of amazing items, just really cool. I want to plug this. If you haven't ever been over to Ancient Coins with Aaron Berk, go check out that podcast. Absolutely fabulous. It's going to be one of those that if you're interested in ancients at all, what you're going to find is that you start and then you go, hey, where in the world did 5 or 6 hours go? I highly recommend you get over there and watch that. You're going to have a lot of fun. He also has his own YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff. You'll see the podcast there under podcasts. Lots of great videos, lots of great content. And then, as you know, Mike and Matt, the Coin Show podcast. So if you're not subscribed to these channels, I want to make sure that you are. I'll be putting all the links in chat. So make sure you're going over and checking those and showing our guests some massive support. So the first thing I want to do before we get into the question and answers, I want to show you this resource that Mike shared with me. Aaron and Mike, can you guys talk a little bit about this interactive map and let us know kind of what we're seeing here?
Yes, so this is a map that is run through one of the programs that the American Numismatics Society puts on. If you're not familiar with the ANS, they're the oldest organization in the United States, actually. And it runs out of New York. They will probably be moving actually to Toledo, Ohio, believe it or not, in the coming years. They've been in New York this whole time since like the 1800s. But it's an amazing resource. If you don't know what the ANS is, I would definitely check it out. Anyway, this map is basically has different layers, and you can pick the different cities that you want to see on the map, showing kind of where things are today. And you can remove things and add things and go in and backwards and forwards, and then you can see different coins as you can pick it up. It's not going to give you every coin that they produce, but it's going to give you a few coins or one coin, just give you an example of what these things look like. But it's we've been doing more and more of this on my podcast, on Mike and mine, our podcast, as far as showing maps, because not everybody knows where things are. And so we'll mention Asia Minor and people be like, well, where the hell is that? And that is in Turkey. Right, which is in Greece. And so it's and then some of the cities in ancient times are still there today. So like the island of Naxos, or Aegina. So those haven't really changed, but they are islands in the Mediterranean. So using these kinds of maps are really great.
Just a real quick note about your podcast, about our podcast, the Ancient Coin podcast with Aaron Berk. The idea of it kind of came from, the fact that I wanted to learn ancient coins, and Aaron wanted to teach me, but we figured we would kind of record it and we'd let other people learn ancient coins from it. So that's kind of what it's an attempt to do, is for me to learn and destroy my ignorance and learn all about the ancient world. We've been doing it for just over 2 years, and I think I'm finally starting to understand some of the stuff. I mean, really, I'm starting to get a grip on it, and so it's been a really good way to learn. And if you want to learn, you can always go back. You can start from the beginning of our podcast. You actually don't even have to, because you'll pick it up either way. But we talk about current events, but more importantly, he's constantly teaching me, about ancient coins in general.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I started or wanted to do a podcast with Mike also was my father's written several books, and I was always told, if you want to make it in numismatics, you have to, or be known in numismatics, you have to write a book. And I didn't feel like writing a book. And so I decided that doing a podcast with Mike would make more sense, because it would be dynamic and change all the time. Whereas once you write that book, it's frozen in time, unless you do multiple editions. And I felt that a podcast would be a lot more educational, and I could talk about current events, things that are going on in the market, and I can really teach the novice how to collect ancient coins and deal with the pitfalls that a lot of new collectors fall into. And honestly, my biggest issue at the time was whether you should have ancient coins certified by NGC slabbed or not, and the problems with that, and the positives of that. And so I'm not necessarily 100% against it. A lot of people think I am.
No,
but
you walk a really
it's more
fine
that
line.
Yeah, my issue was that people were overpaying for the slabs. And so I wanted to make sure that I had a lot of people kept coming to me, dealers with other collections or the collectors themselves, and they would say, oh, I've got this 12 Caesar set in silver or gold, and I want to sell it. And I'd say, well, did you put them in the slabs, or did you buy them in the slabs? And if they bought them in the slabs, I know they got screwed. And so and typically they would pay 4 or 5 times what the coins were worth. And so I would have to tell them, look, the only way you're going to get your money back is if you go back to the people you bought them from, whether you bought them out of an auction that only sells slabs, or you bought them from a telemarketer. You got to give them back to them and see if you can play that game and get your money back. So and so when I kept seeing that over and over again, I basically decided, you know what, it's time for Mike and I to do this. And so we worked on the platform for a while, and then came up with the right patterns. And then honestly, after 65 episodes, it just took a time to kind of get our footing and to get the right formula. And so
develop chemistry, which seemingly was there already from the beginning, but it has flowed a lot better. We really do have a much better chemistry now.
Well, I think you guys have hit on full
we didn't
success.
have like the doofus purchase and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think you guys have great success. The shows are amazing to watch. Every time I watch it, the great interaction. I enjoy watching and learning about ancients. But I want to go back to something that you said, and I see a lot of this. I'd like you to kind of dig into this a little bit more, and that is buying these in slabs. Obviously, you're going to get a straight up deal, Harlan J Berk. We know this, very reputable business. We're good on that front. But the question is, buying these in slabs, like where would you suggest somebody start in ancients?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is you have to look at the dealer or the organization that you're buying from. I think that buying from an organization, one that's going to guarantee everything they sell for life, is the first thing. And then look at to see what kind of organizations that dealer or organization is a member of, because even NGC, they don't guarantee the authenticity. So ultimately, it's always going to fall back to the person you bought it from. A lot of people don't know that, but NGC, the only coins they don't guarantee is ancient coins. They guarantee everything else except for ancient coins. So, and so they don't guarantee it because they don't want to get have a $50,000 coin come back to them and have them have to give the money back. So
because it happens a lot.
They were making mistakes early on. Well, it doesn't happen a ton, but it definitely happened to them. And so they decided, they don't want any skin in the game. And so that's been like one of the biggest issues with a lot of the dealers, is that NGC will kill a coin that they make a mistake on, and it kills the sale for the dealer or the organization, but it doesn't hurt NGC at all. And so it's ultimately not very fair. But
I think
would say being
important.
a member
I think it was really important, Aaron, to set the table with the fact that NGC just look, they guarantee all their other coins, but ancients, they don't guarantee the grade, they don't guarantee the authenticity. And it's important to go into it knowing that it's completely different from everything else they do.
They do guarantee grade. I don't know how you guarantee a grade, but they do claim to guarantee the grade. So, but grade is very subjective. And somebody asked me at the fun show what I thought. Yeah, they asked me what I thought a grade would be on, that NGC would give, and I said, grab a dart and give a throw and see what happens. But they will supposedly guarantee grade. But my point is that if you go to a dealer or an organization, the two organizations that are most important in numismatics is the Professional Numismatic Guild and the IAP of Professional Numismatists. Both of those organizations, you can't sell fakes. If you do, and you're caught, honestly not giving money back on a forgery that's been condemned and guaranteed condemned, then you can be thrown out of the organization. Also, if the consumer has a problem, they can go to the organization and open up a disciplinary case against that dealer. And
there's arbitration, right?
It does really protect the not only the dealers from other dealers, yep, but it protects the consumer for the dealers. And so The other thing that the IEPN has is called the IBSCC. And the IBSCC is a anti-forgery committee, and you can actually submit coins to the IBSCC like you can NGC, and you can get a certificate whether the coin is real or not. So ultimately, one thing a lot of the IEPN dealers are doing now is if a coin is condemned by PNG or by NGC, you can still submit it to the IBSCC for the final say, because basically NGC is not the final say on whether coins are real or not. So the problem is the IBSCC takes a while to make a decision but it's made up of 10 dealers, mostly ancient and world, and they decide together whether something is real or not. That's the way coin betting used to be, and still kind of is that you would go, before there was ever grading services, you would go to a show and you'd walk your coins around and you'd get a consensus from 10, 12 dealers and of the best ones you could find. And from there, you can pretty much determine whether something was real or not. And so the IBSCC that's similar to what that really is. So it takes a little bit more time because people have to get together from around the world, because that's basically, the membership is made up from people from all over to decide whether something is real or not. But ultimately, to get back to your question, I'd say get somebody it's reputable, who's a member of these organizations, so you have a way to claw back any issues, and with us, and and then and then take your time, go slow. It's a marathon.
Well, it's certainly nothing to be rushed into, because you can make mistakes. You can make small mistakes.
You'll probably not like it in a year or two, or you'll ultimately. I think that with Roman, because that's what they think they know, and ultimately they end up in Greek because it's much more beautiful.
So you cut out a little bit through that. Did you hear?
Study much.
So you cut out a little bit through there. Did you hear Mike's statement or question?
No.
Mike, you want to repeat?
What I said was that it's nothing to be rushed into, because you can make 4 and 5 figure mistakes in ancient coins. So it's really important to have protection. It's really important to go slow, and it's really important to do your homework.
You're cutting out on me, Mike.
Okay. Am I cutting out on you, Frosty?
So no, I think the log's on Aaron's end.
Correct.
Okay. You and I are coming across straight.
If I turn off my camera.
Yeah, turn off your camera.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn off my camera. See if that helps.
Okay.
It sounds like it.
Your audio comes across great. It's just there's a little bit of lag, and that's fine. So.
Yeah, no worries.
Perfect. Yeah, no, this is way better.
So I've already put in chat, ask your questions. I want you to type in the capital question. That'll help us identify that there's a question being asked. And then go ahead and ask your question if you have one. I appreciate the fact that you said don't rush into this. The old adage, buy the book before you buy the coin. Again, do your research. But I try to tell my viewers all the time, there is an amazing community of people that you can go to well before you buy your coin. And if you know you're looking at something, ask questions. There's a lot of people who are willing to help. And, Aaron's available. Just call Harlan J Berk and just say, hey, I have this question. Send Mike a message. They'll make sure they get you a good answer, right? So it's about building community. But there's no need to rush in this hobby. Make sure you do it right. Don't cost yourself a lot of money by falling into that FOMO trap or that reaction. So great advice there.
So, Aaron, why don't you tell people about the focus of some of the stuff that you have going on in order to spread the world, spread the love of ancients throughout the world?
Well, I mean, I would say, I kind of started out in social media about 10 years ago, something like that. And so I really wanted to, for me, it was more or less to kind of get outside of my dad's shadow a little bit. I, have a very famous father in numismatics. And so I had been okay staying in the background, even though I was very well educated in the subjects. I kind of let him have the spotlight, and so but I felt like I had a lot to share numismatically, as well as the fact that I'm an expert in classical antiquities as well. And so between those two subjects, I felt like social media was a great place for me to kind of put myself out there. And so besides the podcast, which has been fantastic, we do a lot of shorts. So those are just little 1 minute clips where it's basically called what's on Aaron's desk. And so
knock knocks, they're great.
One of my employees comes into my office, we call him knock knocks. He knocks on my door, come in, I'm doing something silly or funny, or we have some kind of like animation that I'm interacting with, and then I show a coin or an antiquity, give a little history, and then close it out in their 1 minutes. A great fun way to bring our hobby to the masses in a fun, educated way that's silly, but still informative. I have 3 young adult kids, and follow them on Instagram. So and so I have I have 3 in college. Well, one's just got out, but as soon as I post, their friends will message them like, "Oh, they call me Coin because my call name is Coin Man." And so they'll say, "Hey, Coin just dropped another video." And so the fact that it's getting out to all these young, found that after COVID, a lot of 18 to 30-year-olds started to get into collecting, where if you asked me before COVID, I would say that our hobby was dying off, honestly. And so the fact is that there's been a huge resurgence of people collecting at the younger ages that wasn't there before. And so social media is a really great place to connect with those people. In fact, as I was already doing it, and so I was able to take that momentum and move it even further with the podcast. We're also doing a lot of meet and greets. We're going to be starting a lot of meet and greets through one of the organizations in Chicago to get people into the store. So we did actually Greek Fest not long ago, which was an outdoor festival in the city, and
it was really cool.
Probably gave out about 700 business cards, and we brought we have what's called a junk bowl, which basically is unattributed ancient coins that we sell for between 12 and 15 bucks a coin. And usually when we go to a show, any kid that walks up, we give them a free coin. We always do that.
That's cool.
And so because that's our future, right? And so so obviously at Greek Fest we did it. So we gave out a lot of ancient coins because there was a lot of families that came up, and every kid that came up, they were really quiet, hiding behind mom or dad, and they would say, "You like ancient coins?" And they'd say, "Yeah," because they didn't know what to say. And then pick one out, and their parents, "What?" And then yeah, and then they'd be sorting through it for like 10 minutes trying to find the right one for them. And it was really exciting. And then teaching them about the coin and telling them about it. And so I think that that's the most fun as a numismatist that I could have, is actually sitting down with not only people that are really enthusiastic, but seeing kids light up when they get that first coin in their hand. And so it's that's the most rewarding part. I mean, I had a kid in maybe this is probably 15 years ago. I gave he was into Egyptian antiquities, and I gave him a free Egyptian amulet. And I heard from him, probably 10 years later, and he was in college and he was studying design. And he said that Egyptian antiquity gave him the drive to want to pursue the career that he was going for. And so, and he just wanted to thank me. And that was like, holy cow, not only am I watch this kid grow up, which made me feel old, but also it was cool seeing it full circle and him coming back and saying that it actually touched him in a specific way. So that makes giving out coins to kids very rewarding. We had a program called History in Your Hands. It was a foundation that we were going into the schools, and that kind of died off a little bit with COVID. And so, but we still have the foundation. We just haven't geared it back up again. But coins
we went to a
are a
program
great
of
tool.
sanitizer in your hands.
Right. So, but coins are a great tool for education, because no matter what time of history you're talking about, from 650 BC on, you can have a coin or a piece of currency that will describe the time and the history that's happening in each country. And, there's really nothing left other than actual objects, but to actually have currency that's left over from all these periods and all these time frames is pretty unique. And when you put that into a kid's hand or an adult's hand, history becomes alive for them. And so that's the beauty of numismatics, as we all know. But I think that's what can get really people into collecting as well from that standpoint.
I want to say something. It's very clear. It's obvious to anybody that talks to you that you're really, really passionate about coins, antiquities, and ancients and all that stuff. But one of the things that I really liked about coming to work for you is the fact that if you walk into your average coin shop, it's a crabby old guy behind the counter that doesn't want you touching things, doesn't want to look at things for you, and it's like, that's not what we do. We were allowed to actually share passion with people when they come in. And we had a store manager when I first got there that wasn't all that crazy about doing it, but eventually he came around and saw the light. But it's one of those things where everybody's really passionate about what they do, and we're allowed to show it, and we're allowed to work with it, and it makes doing something that you love so much better.
Yeah, we like having the store be a place where people can come in and share their passions with us, and we can share it with them. My favorite thing to do is when somebody comes in and they want to know about ancient coins or artifacts, they don't know anything about it, and then I'll take them into the back room and I'll start pulling out really expensive coins, and I'll tell them, I know you're not going to buy these, and some of these aren't even for sale because they're owned by other clients that maybe I represented, but I want to put this in your hand because I think it's so cool and I think you're going to love it. And because I represent clients in auction, and sometimes I buy very expensive coins for them. And so I might have a $500,000 coin or $1 million coin, and to put that into somebody's hand, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm holding this. I just love watching that. It's so much fun. And so
the reaction is great.
And that's the best part. The reaction is really, really great.
Well,
Really,
and you're
really
building memories,
like,
and that's what causes us to maintain coins, right? That's you think about how many people got engaged by sitting down with one of their grandparents or something, And it's that memory that does that. So it's really nice to hear that.
Yeah, no, and the other thing is that luckily, because I represent clients in auction, and because as a company, I'm not going to necessarily go and buy these things. I couldn't buy them for stock; they're too expensive, honestly. But I have some very, very good clients at the top of the food chain who allow me to use my expertise to buy them this material, and then they let me use it on social media, and then I can share it with the masses, and that is really the best part, because once it gets into somebody's collection, if they're not really somebody who's going to be showing it, it really doesn't see the light of day. And so it's nice to be able to provide these things for the general public. And some things I can't even imagine that I would have ever held. Like, for instance, I just got the Bill of Rights that's been ratified by one of the states, signed by Thomas Jefferson as Secretary of State. And we bought it for a client for $635,000 all in, and meaning with the commission and everything. And of course, I'm going to be putting it on social media, and doing a little blip about it. And people, when they see something like that, they're like, "Holy cow! I can't even imagine that exists." And honestly, it's the only one in private hands. So
it is kind of insane.
Pretty
some
exciting
of the stuff that you find.
Yeah. So it's not always coins.
We had Galileo. We had a letter from Beethoven. We had a piece of the page out of the Gutenberg Bible. I mean, all these things for clients.
Yeah, and to be able to do that's usually where I do my knock shorts, and so that's a lot of fun doing that. I've probably handled 10 silver Eidmars in my life, Brutus Eidmars, and 1 gold Eidmar. And so every time I get one of those, I like to put them online as well, because those are really exciting coins as well.
So we do have some questions. I want to go ahead and get to those. The first one came from Jack Young, and it goes back to talking about the NGC guarantee. And Jack says, how can they guarantee a grade but not its authenticity? How in the heck does that work?
Well, they don't want any skin in the game. And honestly, I don't think you can guarantee grade, because they can come up with whatever determining factor they think makes it the grade that it is. But they don't want to have to give the money back.
The grading scale.
Right. And so I think they can always defend the grade. Right. I think they can always defend the grade. And so they're basically saying they're guaranteeing something, but not really. And they're the most expensive grading service. They charge, on the high level, they charge 2% of market value. And so, for instance, I just got a decagram of Syracuse by Uenitos, graded by NGC for a client. The coin was $100,000, about $150,000 coin, is what the client paid in auction. They charged $2,800 for the grading, but if they were wrong on the authenticity, they wouldn't give back that $2,800. They would keep that because that's their service fee, essentially. But they feel like every coin that they put into a slab, it's giving it high value. But that's that's only if the coin has a high designation, a star or a 5555 mint state. And in fact, the coin that just came back, it got a Choice XF star 5545 brushed. And the client who I bought it for was somebody in China who is a dealer who is selling it to somebody else in China. And the Chinese are really big on stars and high designations. Well, it said brushed, and which is a term that NGC likes to use a lot. And it's really meant more for US coins than it is for ancient coins. And because it means it's been over cleaned or harshly cleaned. And every ancient coin has been cleaned, every single one. It's not like US coins. When these things come out of the ground, they're covered in dark sediment, and you have to clean them. There's no ancient coin that comes out looking like the ones that are on screen. So, so the Chinese buyer didn't want the coin, and so I had to find a buyer for this other Chinese dealer, and because he didn't like the grade, and he ended up taking like a $12,000 loss on the coin because he needed to get rid of it. And it was a fabulous coin. It was still a fabulous coin. And even when I talked to NGC about it, they defended the grade, and but they even said fabulous coin. And yeah, it's fabulous coin. It was on the edge, so they didn't want to call it AU, which probably it was, so they called it XF star. And so I was talking to David Baggy about it down in Fun as well, and he said, yeah, there's a lot of coins that are on the edge, and it's really hard, and you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So, but the fact is that I think that NGC is realized with ancient coins that there can be mistakes at any level, and so it's easier for them to just fall back on the fact that most dealers and organizations give a lifetime guarantee, and so why should they? And so I guess they that's how they get away with it. And so what's interesting is there's another grading service that I found it fun that just popped up for ancient coins, and it's one guy. He worked at NGC for about 10 years, and he's now off on his own, and he started a grading service for ancient coins. He's just doing Roman right now because he hasn't figured out the holder for the Greek yet. But one thing I asked him to add was because he has the same rating scale and all that NGC does, but I said he should add an artistic merit scale, because that's one thing that's missing on the NGC slab, is that you could have a mid-level graded Alexander the Great tetradrachm, but fantastic style, meaning the engraver was amazing. And you could have a high grade mint state flawless coin, but a crappy die. And that crappy die is going to get a star, it's going to get a high designation, and somebody's going to pay a ton of money for it. And somebody's going to pay a lower amount of money for the lesser graded, but highly artistic style die, even though it should be reversed. And so I think that having an artistic merit would solve a lot of issues when it comes to coins being overpriced for just the grade alone. I think that there has to be an artistic merit on there as well.
Interesting. Well, thanks for that. Neil asks, have you seen a lot of 356 BC Roman coins in circulation?
356 BC?
Yep.
That exact date?
What he said.
What the heck was going on in 356 BC?
I don't know. I don't know if you can. Most Greek coins didn't necessarily have the exact date on them. So they're basically done on style alone. Roman coins will have exact dates because they're actually on the legend of the coin. So because Greek coins don't have legends, it's almost impossible to put an exact date. Even on Alexander the Great tetradrachms, that we know the mints and the dating of circulation, they're still within a 10-year period usually. So to get an exact date on a coin from the Greek period, I would say it's impossible.
Unless somebody was a ruler for maybe 3 months.
Yeah, but it didn't happen with the Greeks. It really didn't.
Okay.
So with the Romans, sure. With the Romans, absolutely. They can get it down to the month in some cases with those guys, because it's written on the coins. But in Greeks, it's not. So I would say no.
Yeah.
So Neil clarified that particular date was the Battle of Euconimus, which was the largest naval battle in history. So that's why he was wanting to know.
No, I mean, you're going to get, coins that were within the 10-year period of that event easily, but not the exact date. No.
So you were speaking of Alexander the Great, and Vote for Pedro actually had asked you about the tetradrachms. Is there a difference between where the coin was struck and the value?
Yes. Only with one mint in particular, and that's the Memphis Mint of Egypt, because there's always been a lore with Egypt from collecting antiquities. And so a lot of people, even though it's a posthumous issue, because Alexander did not mint coins at Egypt when he was alive. It was Ptolemy the First, his general, who took over Egypt after Alexander's death in 323 BC, that started issuing coins with Alexander's name. And so, but there are a lot of antiquity people who will buy an ancient coin of Alexander because it was minted at Egypt or at Memphis in Alexandria. So that's probably the most important mint, and the one that probably garners the most amount of money.
Yeah, Memphis is kind of to the ancient world what the Carson City Mint is to the U.S. coin world.
Yeah, and there's and most of the time you will get a symbol of the rose, which can also be confused with the city of Rhodes. So there are an issue of Memphis with a rose on it, but it has a different symbol under the throne. There's usually 2 or 3 symbols that you use to match it up to get to that die or that mint. And so, but the one that's really iconic for Egyptian tetradrachms of Alexander is, and they are scarce, they don't come up often, is that there's an Amun god in the field that has the feathers, wearing the feathers of truth, which is a very much an Egyptian symbol. So that is probably the most iconic of the Egyptian symbols for the Alexander tet. And it doesn't come up very often. And when it does, it garners pretty good money as long as the coin is decent enough grade.
Outstanding. Vote for Pedro also wanted to know, says, are there any recommendations for legit websites to purchase ancient coins from? Obviously, Harlan J Berk, we're good there. What other ones would you recommend, or could you?
Well, I would say any of the people who are members of the organizations I mentioned earlier in the show. So C&G, Classical Numismatic Group, is a good one in the United States. They run the Triton auction, which is a big auction in New York. I would say, obviously, Heritage is a good company to deal with, even though I'm not always happy with the prices being paid for slabs. That's where you have to be careful, because they have a lot of Chinese buyers and other people that are so hypersensitive on NGC that they're way overpaying for the grade. So you got to be really careful there. Stacks will have good auctions that have ancient coins as well. Again, you have to be careful not to overpay for the grade on the slab. There are a lot of smaller dealers in the US that don't necessarily have big presences online, but you can find at coin shows like James Beach, my sister Shanna Schmidt, Perry Siegel from Hercules is a good one, Nick Konomopoulos. There's quite a few smaller dealers out there that do a really good job that you can find at coin shows. And then a ton of them obviously in Europe. So NAC, Numismatic Ars Classica, probably the best and biggest ancient coin seller in the world. They get the most money than anybody. Yes, much better than Heritage. Everybody thinks Heritage is it. They're not. For ancient coins, it's NGC. Kunker is another one in Germany that's excellent. There's Nomos in Switzerland as well. There's Loy Numismatics. The list goes on and on as when you start opening up the world. So, but I would definitely go to the IAPN website and pick one of those dealers that deals in ancient coins, because they've been vetted by all the other dealers. They're voted in by the dealers. So you can be rejected if you've had a felon or a felony, or if you're just a bad business person in general. You're blocked. Being an ANA member is not that hard. So I wouldn't say an ANA member necessarily is it. Um, it doesn't take much vetting to become an ANA member, but to become a not to say the ANA is not a great organization, but that's not the place to look for your dealer. So anybody can become an ANA dealer, generally speaking. But PNG and IPN are the two biggest and the ones that you really should look for. And if you're looking for ancient coins, you got to look at the IPN, because there's more ancient dealers in Europe than there are in the United States. And so honestly, being an IAPN member is a good place to look for ancient coin dealers more than the PNG. So, which is primarily made up of US guys, even though, we're a member of the PNG. The other thing is you're a member of the PNG individually, whereas in the IAPN, you're a member as an organization. So it's a little bit different. So, and the IAPN, we meet every year in a different place in the world and discuss numismatics. We don't have a coin show. We don't bring coins. We actually go and we network with each other. We have two working sessions where we talk about laws, disciplinary stuff, things happening that we can do to help numismatics throughout the world. And so they are really an excellent organization. And that's where I would look for your ancient coin dealer to make sure that they're a member there. So that would be the one place I would look.
So I want to say something first off, Aaron. Thank you very much. We've talked about this before. When somebody's really looking out for you and they're willing to, obviously I said, go to Harlan J Berk, right? Talk to Aaron. He'll get you connected. But what he just did is he just walked through all the places, all the contacts, all the people that he knows, and very freely just gave you other shops and other business owners' names. Why is that? Because he genuinely has a heart to make sure that you get what's best for you. And I appreciate that, because a lot of times people are like, no, it's only me, it's only me, it's only me. I appreciate the willingness to go to others and say, hey, you know what? I am a good source for you, but there's all these other people that provide great information. So I want to say thank you for that, because a lot of people don't do that in today's society. And it's a mark of true magnanimity and integrity. So I thank you for that, Aaron. Also, Vote for Pedro, real quick, said he wanted to thank you for talking to him an hour and a half on the phone the other day and completely crushing his dreams of owning an Athenian Decadrochem. So, there you go. But he says, no, honestly, he really appreciates all your time. I just had to do that because we joked about that the other day, and I wanted to share that with you.
That's funny. Well, honestly, going back to what you just said, which thank you for making those comments. That's what our podcast had to be about. I told Mike at the beginning that we could not we try not to advertise Harlan Berk at all in the podcast. And when I do mention our company or our auction, I usually apologize because I want to make sure that I'm advertising the whole community, because I didn't want us to look like an infomercial.
Well, yeah, we didn't want it to just be a shill.
Right. And I've had people, because in our show, we advertise, we start out talking about auctions that are coming up somewhere in the world, usually the auction results from the show before. And so I'm basically advertising my competitors' auctions. And I've had people say to me, why don't you charge them? And I'm like, I can't, because then I'd be a pay for play, and I don't want to do that. And so we have one advertiser, and he sends us wine, Bellinger. And so we drink our profits. So, but yeah, I can't, and the other thing is that's why I do auction representation. I can't own all the great coins in the world, but I'd love to be able to advise and to help people buy the coins at the right prices and to steer them in the right direction. And if I can get a piece of the action, why not? Right. So, and use my expertise to be able to advise the client and to be able to build them a really fantastic collection. And so I can't do that all on my own. And so the only way I can do that is by really promoting and for helping advise clients and pointing them in the right direction, no matter who they're dealing with. And so, so I don't have a problem, especially, you know, not everybody can get to Chicago, and I'm not going to be able to have every coin. And so I always just tell people, look, whether you use me or not, if you want to ask my opinion, I'll give it to you, and you don't have to pay me a cent. You know, I just want to make sure that you don't screw up. And so I'd rather be on this this adventure with people and have them not mess up, because that one question they ask me might save them $50,000. Maybe it only saves you $500, but that $500 might be $50,000 to them. So it doesn't really matter. I have a lot of dealers that I talk to. There's a ton of US dealers don't know anything about ancient coins, and that's very common. We all you know, drive in our own lane. And so sometimes, you know, ancient coins are very daunting for a lot of the US dealers. And I'm connected with hundreds and hundreds of them on Facebook Messenger, and they are messaging me stuff. Hey, this just walked into my store. Is it anything? And I tell them, sure, it is, or it isn't. It's worth $5. It's worth $20. It's worth $5,000, or it's fake. And I do that because maybe someday something's going to walk into their store that's really fantastic, and I would get a chance at it. And so, as well as just creating good energy in numismatics and sharing, because maybe that guy or that organization knows something I don't know about something, and then I can go to them and say, hey, what's this? And so ultimately, in the end, we're all here as a community to help each other out. And I have a lot of information in my head, and so it's nice to share it.
Yeah, slightly. Yeah.
I also want to point out that there is a general philosophy at Harlan Berk where if you buy a coin from us, we want it to be a coin that you're proud of and that we're proud to have sold. So generally, the idea is that if you bought it from us, we want it to be a coin that we have no problem buying.
Yeah. And look,
pretty good business strategy.
I've had clients that, you know, I've become really good friends with. One client, I didn't sell anything to him for a year and a half, because every time he'd come in, he'd say, I want to buy this coin. What do you think of it? And I'd say, it's a piece of shit. And, you know, but it's your coin. I'm like, yeah, I know, but don't buy that coin. It's not a nice coin. And I wouldn't try to sell him anything. And I won over his trust to the point where he finally said, okay. You tell me what I should buy. I trust you. And I started showing him coins that he should buy. And he now has a really fantastic collection. And so I have no problem telling somebody, look, even coins at Harlan Berk, there'll be a coin in a collection that we bought that I had to buy because it was an entire collection, but we priced it accordingly. You know, you price it cheap because it's not a great coin, right? If somebody comes to me and says, hey, is that a great buy for me at this level? And we'll, well, you know, I can discount it and make it a better price, but ultimately, is it the coin for you? And so if no one asks my opinion, then, you know, then it's the price it is, whatever, you know. But as soon as they ask my opinion, I'm going to tell them straight away and be as transparent as I can what I think of the coin.
And he's not going to candy coat it either. It's just not.
I don't get that from Aaron at all. He's a pretty straight shooter, and you can pick that up. Coach wanted to know, have you ever dealt with any ancient coins that were harmful to handle?
Yeah, there's certain coins that have been, you know, that are crystallized, meaning the silver has broken down over thousands of years and is very brittle. And so you have to be very careful in handling them. There are coins that will have bronze disease that honestly need to be cured. And so you have to be really careful with that. But I think just coins that are crystallized is probably the biggest issue. And just to make sure that you're not going to hold it too tightly, probably need to go into a coin tane before you put it into a footbat. Even NGC will not slab coins that they feel might break if they put it into the slab. So it's funny when they say, well, you're protecting the coins, but they can't even protect the coins that really need protecting. And so ultimately, I think that's probably the biggest issue. Handling a multi-million-dollar coin doesn't scare me. I've handled tons. And so, you treat it like anything else. You just want to hold it on the edge. And it's not like US coins where you have to worry about having a fingerprint. It doesn't happen. So you can touch the surfaces, but the edge is always the
all
good place to
likelihood
do
the
it.
coin at one point was in the ground. I don't think you have to worry about
Right.
fingerprints.
I mean, there are some very small obols. That's the smallest denomination of ancient coin that are literally 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters big.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard to hold that on the edge. So you kind of literally have to put it in the palm of your hand to be able to hold it. It's so small. In fact, I would suggest not holding it on the edge in that situation, because you will drop it and then you won't find it.
It's like a giant,
it will bounce.
Sand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
right.
It's really not much bigger than a grain of sand.
Right. So it's amazing. In fact, the Greeks called it lip money because they would actually carry them in the bottom part of their lip to carry it around.
Oh, that's the other lip.
So. Interesting. I've never heard of that. And what was the name of that coin called?
The denomination's called an obol.
Obol, okay.
O-B-O-L.
Very cool. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. Cartier silver. I've casted a scarab and the Eye of Horus out of silver that I purchased from you. I'd love to send you some photos.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah. So, Mike, can you drop email address or something that he can send the information to?
Sure. It's if he wants to send the information, Aaron at hjbltd.com. Let me see. Where do I drop something into the chat?
It's you can AARON.
You can put it in the private chat, and then I can just copy and paste it over.
Okay.
Or for some of you jokesters, it's Aaron.
Yes,
Aaron.
HJB.
Have you ever seen that skit of the British dude that talks about the silent letters in names and the various spellings in names?
I've never seen that one.
I'll find that one. I'll send that over to you. You'll get a kick out of that one.
That'd be funny.
Because it's Sahara, Sarah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like, yeah, that's cool. Question: if I found a coin when I was scuba diving in Rhodes, do I have to give it back?
Technically, yes, but no. I would say that if you already brought it home, it's home. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Yes, any of the source countries you are not allowed to take coins out of, except for Israel and the UK, which have decent treasure trove laws. You can get export papers for them. In fact, I just bought about 2 months ago, I bought some Celtic gold from a gentleman who was metal detectoring in the UK and actually got export papers. And so I had all his export papers, his find spots, all of that, which was really fantastic. But if you carried out some coins, I doubt Rhodes is going to miss a coin you found in the ocean too badly. So, and in fact, most source countries and museums don't put out coins very often. They're mostly stuck in the back rooms, never to be seen again.
I don't think they're going to send any international contingent after you for having smuggled a coin out. I mean, it would be wrong to try and sell it. But other than that,
So, Aaron, I want to go back
Well,
to
at
what
this
you
point, you
just
could.
said regarding them putting them in the back room and never putting them out. Is that for protection purposes, or is it just lack of interest?
Coins don't sell tickets to museums. Sorry to say, they're too small. They don't display well in museums. They're not big enough. They're usually used in certain museums to date some of the antiquities that are out. They may put coins out that are around that same time period, but they're usually in the bottom of the case and they're kind of lost. There are a couple of good museums that actually have really good coin displays in the United States. Boston Museum of Art is one of them because they had a very good curator that was really into ancient coins, and they have an excellent collection, and so they have a very good display. Let's see who else. The Walters Art Gallery has some really nice medallions on display as well, and then there are some decent ones in Europe, but not a ton. It's just that they just don't display well, and also ancient coins were mass produced. There are literally millions and millions of them, and so they're relatively common. And so it's only a couple of coins that you'd want to put out that make any sense, and they're going to be like the Syracuse decadrams, the Eidmar, obviously some Roman gold, coins of importance, the Colosseum sesterce. I can go on and on of all the rarities. The other thing is, back in the day, I would say in the early, probably in the 40s and 50s, maybe even up to the 60s, a lot of the museums were polishing their ancient coins. And so you'll literally go to a museum and see them all polished. And so a lot of the curators back in the day didn't know how to deal with ancient coins, and they thought, oh, they need to be shined up. And we all know in coins, that's the worst thing you could possibly do, is take the surfaces off. And so, but they were doing it with really major rarities. And so I think the best curators of ancient coins are collectors, honestly. And they're the best stewards of ancient coins as well. Most archaeologists will use most archaeologists use ancient coins to date a site, and that's about it. Beyond that, they don't care about the dye study of the coin or any of that stuff. Occasionally you'll obviously get an archaeologist that is different, but typically that's not the case. Most ancient coins are not found on sites. Silver coins and gold coins, it's mostly bronze coins that are found on sites. Anybody who's gone on a dig will tell you that they don't find gold and silver, they find bronze coins, because that was what people traded commonly. And gold and silver were treasury coins, which were usually buried off sites. That was their bank, was Mother Earth. And so they'd go bury it out in the country someplace. And the person would die, and then they find a hoard of 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 coins 2,000 years later. And so and so that's been the big argument on legality of buying and selling ancient coins outside of the source countries, is that really the source countries should be legalizing this material, because like Israel and the UK does, because they could make money off of legalizing it. They could charge tax on it. They would have legitimate people doing metal detectoring, not black market people stealing stuff. Any laws you create against anything, there are always going to be somebody who's going to take advantage of the situation. I don't care what it was. I mean, we had, whether you're for or against marijuana, this country, our country, has fought against marijuana for 50 years plus and put a lot of people away in jail. And now it's being legalized and people are making billions of dollars off of it. And so I think, I don't want to say that they're exactly the same, but they're pretty damn close. And so I think that if you legalize, you're going to get legitimate people doing the work for you, doing the right thing, and reporting stuff. And then the archaeologists will be able to document things a lot better. And there are always going to be somebody who's still going to break the rules, I know, but a mass majority of them will not. And there are people in Italy and Greece, I know, when they find material, when they're digging a well at their house and they find a tomb, they just throw everything to the side, because God forbid if they told the government, they would be shut down doing any work on their well for at least a year. And so they don't want the government anywhere near their property. And so if it was a little bit less taboo, they would be all over it, and probably things would move a lot faster. Also, in some of the source countries, there's a lot of people in the government, not necessarily at the highest levels, obviously, but at the low levels, that are part of the problem, who are part of the black market. And so and that's just from me hearing things over the last 30 plus years of doing this. There was one of the main archaeologists in Bulgaria, and I don't know if he may not be there anymore, but I know he sold on the side. And he was the guy who was the main guy looking for things in Bulgaria. So, when you're dealing with poor countries or countries that, don't always do things legitimately. I mean, look at, Greece and Italy are not necessarily the best partners in the EU because they don't keep good records, and there's a lot of black money that floats around those countries. And so even legitimately within government, it's not great. So how are you supposed to police stuff that's being pulled out of the ground for free, that you can make money off of? It's very, very difficult. So it's a tough question to answer, but these are the kinds of things we fight against. Ancient coins are not, they were mass produced. They were made to travel. So to say one country owns it from 2,000 years ago is kind of silly, because the Roman Empire spread all over the place. So if
and that's
Roman
not
coin,
that country anymore.
Right. If a Roman coin was minted in Spain or France, but found in England, who owns it? Is it England? Is it France? Or is it Italy? And so it's a tough thing.
And along those lines, there's an old joke. It's like, why are the 3 pyramids located in England or in
Egypt?
In Egypt, because they were too big to move to England.
We're here all week, folks.
I told you, Mike. I have plenty of these.
Try the wheel.
I didn't get the first one. It was early, but
it was early. Yeah, it was
early, and it was. He hit me with the same one, and I had basically the same reaction. And I'd been awake for several hours, so don't fault yourself on that one.
Copper Owl said, if I have $500 and I'm looking at investing in my first ancient coin, what should I buy? What would be the best
in an ancient coin?
What would be your best?
Yeah, you never invest.
Well, I said invest. I'm sorry.
We don't sell it. We don't sell investments.
Really specific about this. Coins in general are a horrible investment.
Agree.
They've been steadily going down for the past 30 to 50 years. They probably will continue on that trend, all except for the very high, very ultra rare stuff that sells at the very top of the market. And it doesn't sell within the same people. It's that there's always some new person with too much money in their pocket that has it to spend on one of those coins. But that's it. So buy a coin because you enjoy it. Buy a coin because you want one, or because it fulfills some kind of a joy within you. I only still to this point own less than a handful of ancient coins, but I do own an Athenian tetradrachm. Always wanted one. Think it's the coolest coin that they made. So what? It's the silver dollar of the ancient world. It's like they're everywhere. There's tons and tons and tons, but I don't care. I just like it. So
yeah, I would say, Mike's correct. And ancient coins have probably moved up the most in value over the last 20 years. They've been on a steady uprise, but at the low levels and the middle levels, they've kind of stayed the same for the most part. But I would say even in the middle levels in certain coins, they've gone up. And that's mainly because of the grading services, because there are certain coins that will grade high designations with NGC. And so there's a lot of people looking, dealers, auction houses, looking for coins that they can submit and get in high designated holders so they can honestly screw somebody over. And so, because if you can buy a coin raw and get into a high designated holder, you might make 3 or 4 times your money. And so, but it's gambling, right? It's not easy. So I would say there are certain coins that used to sell for $1,000 that are now $2,000 coins because of that reason. But I would say with your $500, you should first determine what kind of coin you like better. Do you like Greek, Roman, or Byzantine? If you want gold or silver or bronze. If you say, I want to get a gold coin, what's the best one I can get for $500? Well, I would say a Byzantine gold coin, because that's going to be the cheapest ancient gold coin you can get. You're not going to be able to get a Roman gold coin for that much. And if you did, you wouldn't want to own it because it would look like a slug. And so you can buy decent high level ancient Byzantine gold coins for $500. They've kind of trended upwards a little bit, but you can still get a decent gold coin for $500. I would say, like Mike said, Athens tetradrachms. At the 500 level, you're going to get kind of an average one, not very high grade, but it's still possible to get one. I think if you're going for Roman bronze, you'll probably have a better chance of getting something really high grade for $500. But I would say try to buy, depending on what you're trying to get, try to buy the best quality coin you can get for the money you have. And it may be that the money you have for that desire isn't quite there. And so then you have to kind of downgrade your thinking. Do you want to get a lower quality coin just because you want to own that type? Or do you want to try to spend my money to get the best coin I possibly can get? Then that means finding coins that the market isn't as hefty on, that you can still buy an interesting coin for high grade. Like, for instance, Roman siliqua, which are, it's a denomination of a late Roman silver coin. Those coins for $500 you can get in really high grade. So and they're not always, no, it's late Roman. Oh, this coin here on him, this is a Byzantine coin. Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting there.
Yeah, that's a coin, probably a Justinian, minted at Constantinople. That's the reverse of the coin.
Okay.
And this one's $810, something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, very cool. Going back to the grading on the 5-point scale, I'm going to break this out into 2 parts. One, why do they use a 5-point scale? And then can you actually explain the ancient coin grading system?
Well, they use the Sheldon scale, which is kind of silly because it's for US coins. And then so you use the Sheldon scale for the regular grading of it. And then the scale, you have surface and strike, and they give it a 1 out of 5 and a 1 out of 5. And then they'll put a comment on it as well. And it's strike and surface. And I think they could probably get rid of strike, honestly, because to me, that's the grade ultimately. And keep the surface, because you get a lot of coins that have, especially in bronze coins, you'll get tooling or smoothing. And this is also my problem with ancient coin slabbing for bronze coins, is that they can't really, because they downgrade the surface so much and then they give it a negative by saying that it's smooth or tooled. 90% of bronze coins are smoothed. There's a difference between smoothing and tooling. Tooling is adding detail to the iconography that's no longer there. That's a no-no. Smoothing means you're cleaning the coin and you cut into the fields a little bit. And that's just part of the cleaning process, because they have to be mechanically clean, not chemically clean, generally speaking. And so if you open up a heritage or a stack sale of one of their high grade sales, you will find virtually no bronze coins. you'll only find gold and silver. And why is that? Because they only come in high designated holders, generally speaking, and they're going to get the most money for the high designated holders. So they're only going to use gold and silver of popular coins that they can get in those holders. And so you won't find a whole lot of bronze coins. And I've talked to David Vagey at NGC about this, and he said, well, it's up to the dealers to teach collectors smoothing doesn't matter. And I said, well, when you're so hypersensitive on the grade, and people are so hypersensitive buying ancient coins on the grade, which honestly, that's not the way to buy ancient coins. It's not on the grade at all. The grade is the last thing I look at. I look at historical significance, iconography, surface, and then I might, think about the grade at that point. But I have everybody has their own internal grading system in their head. And the point is that they're selling ancient coins like they're selling US coins. But the difference is that everybody slabs high-end US coins now. Not everybody slabs high-end ancient coins. And there's no gray sheets to go off of for ancient coins. And so what people use for determining value of specific grades on ancient coins, they use the heritage site. And to me, that's not necessarily the best place to be doing it, because it's only a small smidget of the whole population of
I was
ancient
going to say,
coins
it's
being
not a
sold in the
reflection of
world.
the entire ancient coin market.
No. And so and a lot of the like somebody will, like, if on a bronze coins or even a silver coin, let's say they think it's harshly cleaned or it's been smoothed, they may give it a 2 out of 5 for surface, and then they'll say smoothing after that. And to me, it's like, I'd rather just downgrade the surface and not say smoothing, because you've already said you're downgrading the surface. There's no point in giving a double negative on the coin. And because people are so hypersensitive on the grade, those little comments really do destroy people wanting to own those coins, because they're so hypersensitive on the grade. So if you go through most ancient coin dealers descriptions, we usually will say smoothed and we'll give a grade, and that's about it. And or we might say, olive patination. Like, the other thing is that most people don't realize with bronze coins that having an olive green patination only happens over thousands of years where the coin was buried. And it's the most desirable color that you can get. But NGC doesn't give a determination on the color of a bronze coin because it's not important to them. But people will pay thousands of dollars for a really high grade olive green patina. So it's kind of lost in translation. There's so much more that goes into it than just the grade, is my point. So you can have a coin that's test cut. If the coin's test cut, you can see it's test cut, and you downgrade the surface because of the test cut. Do you have to say test cut too? I don't know. I'm not so sure. But anyway.
So when you talk about patination, this is a terrible image. Are you talking about this color here?
Yeah. Maybe
Okay.
the lightest part of it.
Down here.
It can get it can almost be like not fluorescent, but it's a really bright green. The most highly desirable of all coins.
Let me pull this one up.
Bronze category.
Something like this?
No.
No.
It's hard to describe. So, but when you see it, you'll know it. So,
it sounds like pornography.
That has a green patination. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's exactly what was said when that came out. He's like, you'll know it when you see it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
There was another question, and this is something that we've talked a lot about with information that's coming out. T the Silver Sucker says, AI is changing the world at breakneck speed. How is AI changing the world for ancients?
Well, I think that it's making our life somewhat easier in some regards. I think the AI model still needs to be taught a lot about coins. I know Gemini is better than ChatGPT on coin information. Whereas I think ChatGPT is a little bit better at drawing maps than Gemini is. I use some of that for my podcasts. It's a lot easier. But for instance, Mike and I just did a podcast on the tetradrams of Lysimachus, and I wanted to show where all the mints were on the map. And I put in, can you draw me a map of all the mints, tetradrams of Lysimachus? And it gave me about 6 mints or 7 mints. And I had all the mints, so I put in all the mints. I said, well, aren't you forgetting this mint, this mint, this mint, this mint, this mint? And it said, yes, I forgot those. Do you want me to add them? Do you want me to add them to the map? I said, yes, please add them to the map. So I'm teaching AI as well. And so, one thing I'm working on at Harlan Berk right now is, and I think everybody will eventually do it, so I don't think it's that big of a secret, is I'm having my IT look into connecting with doing an API, which is one database, one network talking to another network. So you can connect with ChatGPT or Gemini, and you can, we'll have lists of every emperor or every Greek city or every denomination. And we're going to ask Gemini or ChatGPT to draw a map or to write a brief description of the emperor or king or denomination or city, mint, and spit it back and put it into our database. And then we're going to review it. And then anytime any of those coins come up, it's going to be added education on the website. So we're going to utilize AI to be able to help us give more information on the coins we're selling. And so I think that you have to embrace AI where you need to embrace AI. I think eventually AI could replace some dealers, but it's going to take at least 10 years, I would say, and a lot of input by dealers and high-end collectors for that to happen.
Well, and one of the major things about this, and I reiterate to the folks that are like, oh, well, then I'll just go create my own little thing, whatever, and go figure it out. You have to understand that if you're going to pull something from AI, it's got to be reviewed. You got to verify and validate the information. Yes, it does make it easier. However, there's still lots of wrong information. So again, it's not something that you can just go put out. This is something that we're seeing with a lot of the videos that are being released by these pure AI channels, where they'll be showing a 1955 double die, but talking about the 1909 SVDB, right? They don't know nothing about coins. They have no idea what's going on. And they'll show a picture of a 1909 or a 1972 and be talking about the 1955. Or they'll be talking about a Denver coin and they'll be showing a Philadelphia coin. Or they'll be talking about MS65 and they'll show one that is, G8. So,
right.
There's a lot of issues with that. And so AI in the hands of people who are willing to do the work, have the history, really can get the information. It's a great tool to pull stuff together in a hurry. I utilize it for literary researchers when we're doing reviews, documentation, looking for policy within hospitals. And so the utilization of AI isn't a bad thing. It's just making sure that you're tracking the details. So I really do appreciate you stating it the way that you did.
Yeah, and for me, a lot of the Roman history hasn't changed a whole lot, and so it's been highly, put on every website all over the place. And so, asking it to write a little blip about Julius Caesar it's probably not gonna get it wrong. It's the obscure stuff you have to be careful about, I think, more or less, or really finite information, but it's still going to have to be reviewed, obviously. I find using it for rewriting things is really fantastic as well. Like I wanted to rewrite the terms of my buyer bid sale, and I wrote it, and then I put it in ChatGPT and said, and I just said, rewrite this so cleanly. And it came up with a lot better formatting than I had it. And so, I think there's there's a lot of great tools with it to be able to utilize. It's been great for my podcast because it helps me. I know what questions to ask, and I know what questions are right or wrong. So, but it gives me a lot cleaner things, especially when I want to draw maps and things like that. And so then I know then to like, if I don't like, oh, that map doesn't look right, then I can like change it a little bit and say, hey, can you, isn't it more here? Yes. And then it draws it for me properly. And then I get it to where I need it to be before I make it public. So you can work with AI and keep on working on the finite details of it until it gets it correct. And you're actually helping AI at the same time because it's learning.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say, I don't know a lot about a lot, but I'll say this about AI. It is generally it's a great tool if you were able to do the writing in the first place on your own. If you were able to actually do it so that you have the knowledge enough to be able to vet it and check it and look at it, it's a phenomenal tool. If you are not familiar with the subject, that's when you can get into trouble.
I have a good friend of mine who's a renowned poet, and he's like, poetry is really easy for ChatGPT or Gemini to do. The problem is it doesn't know how to end it. So you'll never end up, because it always gives the same basic stanza to every finish. And there are words that are used over and over and over and over and over again that signify that it's coming from AI. And a lot of tools will, they'll scan for those things and look for that. But what I've done, and I've utilized this when building checklists and scripts for some educational stuff, is we have to teach at the 8th grade level. And so I will utilize Gemini to say, here's my script. This is what I've developed for, training. Maybe it's a rewrite of a catheter process, or maybe it's something with hospital medical management, or policy of clinical measures or something. And I'll write it very technical language, and then I'm like, hey, I need this rephrased in the 8th to 10th grade level. And it'll go through and it'll actually pull that information and rewrite it, and then you just go through and tweak it. So there's a lot of really good uses for it, but the reliance on it without the knowledge is extremely problematic.
Yeah, my IT guy, he uses it for code all the time, because he'll write the code and then he will put it in ChatGPT or Gemini to get cleaner code, because he said a lot of times there'll be specific things that the code will pick up on and write cleaner to be able to account for specific browsers or something else that maybe he may have not foreseen. And so he said he used to write code and then realized there was a mistake with a specific browser or something, or a specific language, whether it was Python or something else. And it knew ChatGPT or whatever he uses, whatever AI model he uses, would know how to write it cleaner to create those bridges between the languages. Yeah. And so, but he would write the code originally himself, and then it would clean it up to make it a lot more usable with different platforms and different languages that he wasn't aware of.
So, well, Mike, you and I were talking before the stream yesterday, and I was telling you I was doing the exact thing in building infographics, right? So one of the things about doing like HTML coding is like adjustable headers, right? So headers to fit. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a coder. I can write basic HTML, and I can, if I see it, I can read it, I can fix it, I can update it, but I can't just kick it out, regurgitate it. And I'm trying to build infographics from some of the videos that I've done to help people out. And yeah, it's a great resource. You can pull a lot of good information and it will fine tune it. But again, if you don't have the basic knowledge of it, you won't know what's wrong.
Sure.
Right.
And so you really do have to understand the basic premise. And we see so many videos, there's so many channels that are pure AI, and It's just wrong information. It's said right, but in all the wrong ways.
So I saw something this weekend that said that YouTube is no longer going to pay content creators that use AI voices. So I need to start talking like
That's cool.
this. Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm here to help.
Oh, what is that dude's name from the Simpsons? You sound like him. Or no, it's Family Guy. I can't remember. I'll have to figure it out. Then when I remember, I'll let you know.
Oh, the baby, the
no,
man
not
baby?
Stewart. No, it's the dude with the squared chin, and he talks like that. What was? I don't know. I can't remember. I'll remember, and then I'll send you. I'll text you.
Sure.
But yeah. So, Aaron, I've got a question for you. In studying antiquities, you've studied probably Achilles and the Trojan War and all that stuff. Have you ever heard of the Greek hero whose mom dipped him in the Euphrates, just like Achilles, Bolphides?
Bolphides.
Have you ever heard of that? So there's a story about antiquity where
No, I haven't.
This guy was instead, because Achilles' mom grabbed him by the ankle and dipped him in and protected him, and that's why the general. Well, she knew this story, so she reached in and held him, and then dipped him in the river this way, and nobody could find his vulnerability. Everything was fine, and one day he was with the lady. Lady figured it out, stabbed him through the groin, and that was his downfall. And I tell people it's important that you should remember Achilles' heel, but don't forget about Bolphides' nuts.
I saw that one coming. I saw it coming. I knew it was coming. I was just watching you reel that one in.
Yeah, well, it's hard when you talk.
One of the people that Aaron is familiar with is Saint Diabetes the Slow. We have Saint Diabetes down in our shop. Diabetes has no feet.
Yes.
Yes. It's Diabetes Slow.
So, is there anybody else that has any questions? Oh, hold on just a sec. Aaron, how many counterfeits do you see across your counter?
It's endless. I see counterfeits every day, and
you'd think they'd run out.
It's amazing how many we see. I mean, people have been making counterfeits from ancient times. That's why we have ancient contemporary ancient coins that obviously are thousands of years old, but they're copies. There are a lot of what we call forays, which are actually ancient copies, where they actually took a bronze copper core and put a silver wash over the coin to make it look full silver all the way through, and they were trying to fake the weight of the silver. And so they've been making fakes since the time that the ancients were making the coins. So that really hasn't stopped, and it hasn't stopped today. I think human beings have this way of there's always a devious side to all humans, and so there's always going to be somebody who's going to be trying to fake and make money off of somebody's ignorance. So I see a lot of fakes. We have a what we call a black cabinet that has 60 years worth of ancient coins that we pulled off the market and put into that black box or black cabinet. There are probably 2,000 coins in there, maybe more. I would say the silver has probably got a lot of value at this point. But the best thing we can do,
and there may or may not be a stash of counterfeit U.S. coins downstairs.
Yeah. And so I think the best thing we can do is, if we get the opportunity to either get them from the owner or buy them, or they give them to us, the best thing we can do is take them and put them in that cabinet or put them away, because they're great for teaching, but better, they're never going to screw anybody else over ever
Yeah, they're
again.
never going to pose a threat to anybody else.
Right. And so the worst thing that I see with an auction house is when they don't want to pull a coin because they know it's fake, because they're afraid it makes them look bad. They buy the coin in, meaning they fake the sale, and now there's an auction record showing that that coin sold, and then it ends up back with the owner because it got returned as a fake, and then they 5 years later reoffer the coin and it sells because of that auction record. So it's it happens. And so but as far as like me seeing fakes, yeah, constantly. Antiquities, I'll walk up to a table that has some antiquities on it and I'll say fake, and they're like, well, you didn't look at. And I said, yeah, I know, but I can tell from here it's fake. So I think that's gives us an advantage over a lot of even archaeologists and academics at the museum level. Museum people, museum curators typically only look at their collections or the collections of other museums that are generally all authentic. They don't get a chance to look at thousands and thousands and thousands of fakes. And so we're much better at that than they are, because we're on the front line of that every day, because everything I have to sell, I have to give a lifetime guarantee on. So I have to make sure before I decide to sell it that it's been fully vetted by me, and if not by me, by some expert that maybe I'm not as focused or in a specific area, but I know the foremost expert. I can get their opinion and they can tell me, yeah, that's bad. And so I don't, look, every ancient coin, every dealer, I don't care who they are, US, anybody, everybody has sold a fake at one point or another. It's a matter of how you handle it and how often does it happen. And so those are the two questions you should ask. If it happens constantly, meaning they either don't know what the hell they're doing, or they know they're selling fakes, and do they give back the money immediately, or do you have to go to court or to an organization to get the money back? And so I always judge people on how they are in the worst of times, because anybody can be great during the best of times. And so your dealer, you'll find out how good they are when something bad happens and how they react to it. And so I'd like to think that most of the time, 99% of the time, I do things properly. I can't say 100%. Nobody's 100% in this world, but everybody has sold a fake. Everybody's had a situation come up. I've had coins that have come back that my dad sold 40 years ago that I had to give money back on because he sold a fake. So it's not fun when it happens, but it's your reputation on the line. And so you just have to make sure before you offer anything that you're 100% sure from your eyes anyway that the coin or object is fine and ready to go.
It's a little embarrassing, but it should be, and it's okay. It's not going to be the worst thing that ever happens to you. It's like, just own it.
Well, and I tell people,
I mean, there's
no, please, Aaron, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say I've got a coin right now where I'm in a lawsuit against an auction house who sold my client a fake coin, and they're not a member of any organization. So I couldn't go through an organization, and they're in Europe, and they basically told me I had to go to court to try to get the money back. And it's $100,000 coin. And I've spent $25,000 already, and I'll get the money back eventually. But even at the dealer level, sometimes you have to fight these things. And that's kind of like why I was mentioning to go through somebody who's a member of these organizations, because if they were a member of the IEPN, I wouldn't have to go through the courts. And honestly, going through the courts is kind of scary because the courts don't know anything about numismatics. So getting a judge to understand our business is a lot harder than having to go through arbitration at the IEPN with members of every firm in the world deciding your fate. To me, I'd rather have that than some court deciding. So anyway, sidebar.
No, well, see, but then again, you talk about integrity, and one thing that, and I can say this because I don't work at Harlan J Berk, but I live in Texas, right? I'm nowhere near Chicago, but I know of the reputation of your shop, and so if a mistake is made, and Mike, you've heard me say this in the streams, and that is ignorance is when you know something's wrong and you do it anyway,
Mhm.
right? But otherwise, it's just somebody is not informed or they didn't understand, or, common sense isn't common unless everybody in the room has it. Mistakes are going to be made. It's not somebody making a mistake, it's what you do afterward that defines the
Right.
person. And so we have people that, they've come onto the stream and they say, hey, I bought a counterfeit. They
Mhm.
feel stupid. It's like, don't feel stupid, because what this is it's an opportunity to teach somebody else what you did and how they can avoid that pitfall. And so if people will look at this as, yeah, it sucks to buy a fake coin, but if you're going to, um, one of the Chinese online shops, Temu, for instance, and you're buying a gold coin for $25.99 and it's 1 ounce, you've got a problem, right? I mean, you should be smart enough to recognize that you're not buying a 1 ounce gold coin for $25, let alone when you see the shipping of $2,000. Yeah, I mean, there's problems there, but it's still about informing and sharing the information with people. So again, this just points to the integrity that comes from this company. You guys have done an amazing job. Your dad, your sister are phenomenal in the breadth of knowledge that you guys have maintained and build and continue to share. So again, vote for Pedro is constantly saying, hey, I'll give you all my ancient coin business. I have no problem doing that. But he wants to know if somebody's looking for a particular ancient coin in your inventory, would you track it down? Would you help them identify, locate it, find it?
Sure, why not? I mean, we got some
Yeah,
that'll help them
for sure. Always happy to.
You know what I think is really unbelievable, Frosty?
What's that?
If you come to Chicago and you come to Harlan Berk and you say, I want to see ancient coins, I walk you upstairs, right? Because we're on the main floor on the street level. I'll take you up to the 13th floor of the Chicago Temple building. And 9 times out of 10, the person you're going to sit down with is Harlan J Berk.
I think that's cool. And so again, my realm of ancients, my understanding of ancients is minute. I've only seriously been doing this for a couple years. And so as I look at books and as I do this stuff, I've seen these names. And then to be able to go, I get to talk to Chuck Daughtry. I get to talk to Aaron Burke. It's just like, these are the people that are putting this stuff together and getting out there. But what's important about these folks is they're just people. They're nice, mellow people who really want to help. They really want to make sure you get a good, fair deal. They really want to make sure that you get exactly what you're looking for. I love the story about the person, a year and a half, he wasn't buying anything because I told him, don't buy that crap. You don't need that. That's what somebody needs. Many people won't do that, right? So, but it really does talk to integrity.
Right.
And so what I would like to ask, and again, no pressure, no whatever, I would like to have you back sometime, near distant future, whatever, to actually kind of go over, here's a real coin, here's a fake coin, set them down side by side, and let's talk about why one's good and why one's not. Because a lot of people are like,
Sure.
what's involved in the identification of this? How do you look at this? And you know these things because you see them all the time. But for many of our users,
Right.
They don't know because they don't see it. And I watch some of your shorts and go, oh my God, that's a $250,000 coin. Holy hell. You know, and you're like, oh yeah, well, you should check out this one. This is 1.4 million. You know, this is a cool coin. This is what I would like. You know what I mean? And so you have the opportunity to really do that. So I would like, again, I'm going to tell you what I've told Mike a number of times on my stream. Harlan J Berk, your entire company, as however you guys see fit, have an open invitation to my channel. If we're talking about a topic and you guys have something that you want to elaborate on, or you guys want to do something, you guys have an open door to my channel. I really appreciate the integrity.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate the integrity you bring to the hobby. And as a person who wants to teach and educate, and I am big on integrity, core values. I'm a Navy man, and integrity above all else. And you guys embody that, and it's important. So I want to offer that to you guys publicly in front of everybody. I've already said that to Mike, half a dozen times. But I want you to know, you guys have an open door. Anytime you want to come in, the link that you have this morning is always open. We always use the same one. And you're welcome to come up anytime.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And we'll definitely do that.
Anything else? We've already kind of gone through. Freaking Awesome says, thank you for pointing out the unjust and misinformation and other things. Appreciate the channel. Appreciate the information. Thank you, Freaking Awesome. Pedro's agreeing. We need to draw attention to ancients. Everybody's thanking you in chat. And again, yeah, just a phenomenal people. And folks, you know, I'm really blessed. There's been a lot of great people that are, I mean, look at the people that are in this stream. Jack Riley, Jack Young, we got Aaron Burke, we got Mike on. The names, unfortunately, Paul is out. She's often in here. Eric just got back from the coin show. Chuck Daughtry's traveling. But we get these people in this chat all the time, and they're here to help you. And so, again, Aaron, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. Mike, I appreciate you helping me coordinate this. I've enjoyed myself. What do you guys think? Have you guys enjoyed this? I think that this has been an absolute riot.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed this a lot.
So yeah, next time,
definitely a lot of fun, and glad I woke up for it.
I'm glad Mike texted you. Hey, dude. No, it's all good. And next time I'll let you have a cup of coffee before I drop a joke. But it's what I do. Mike and I are in good company there. I'll come up with some more of those Bullfooties jokes.
Well, I got two. I got two out of the three, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, Aaron, Mike, thank you so much for coming up. I really appreciate you. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to post the emails back in chat. These are, that is Mike, and this is Aaron. If you have questions, you guys can reach out to them. Please do me a favor. Go check out the Ancient Coin Show with Aaron Burke. Here's the page. Go look at that. Subscribe. Let me make this bigger so that you can see that. Go check this out. Lots and lots of great information. Make sure you're subscribed.
That looks familiar.
Well, so Aaron, I was talking to somebody when I put the thumbnail up. One of my friends said, "Is he nursing a migraine? Is he nursing a headache?"
So what it was is, let's give you a little background of that photo. So there's a very famous photographer in Chicago, and my dad got him to shoot his photograph for his the third edition of the 100 Greatest Ancient Coin book. And so my dad had me go with him over to his studio, and he shot a bunch of shots, and I was just there for support. And then my dad said, "Hey, can you shoot Aaron?" And he's like, yeah, sure. And so I got in, and he's like, hey, put your hands like this.
I don't think that's what he had.
And I did. Well, no, he told me where. Yeah, well, I had my hands somewhere else, but he had me put my hands here. So, and he said, oh, that's amazing. I love it. And then my dad was like, oh, well, you didn't have me hold my hands that way. And he's like, okay, well, we can do it. So my dad and I both have the same pose. So
It's a very
if you
strong
look at the
pose.
It's a strong pose. Yeah.
It's a great, it's a great photo. I just had to mess with you a little bit
Right.
because, you know,
right. But that's how I didn't plan that. That was planned by this photographer who did the shot. So
outstanding.
and it was just kind of a last minute thing, riding on the coattails of my father's photographic debut.
Again,
yeah, look, you can help us get go back to the last one for a second. You can help us get to 1,000 prescribers per video. That would be a really cool goal. 355 videos, 308,000 subscribers. You can help us make that happen.
On his channel. Yeah, on his channel, not mine. All right, folks. Well, hey, you guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time and your efforts. Aaron, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, for waking up and spending time with us, talking to us about ancients. Again, open door policy, brother. You come in anytime you want to.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do as well. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate being on the show. And I'm humbled by all of your kind comments, and I really want to thank you as well for being an educator and for making numismatics a wonderful hobby that it is.
Appreciate you, bud. Mike, any final words?
No, what he said.
I was going to say words of wisdom, but I was like, oh yeah, let's not do that.
Oh, pearl of wisdom. You're going to ask me for a pearl of wisdom to add to our necklace of knowledge? I will give you the one that we gave on the last episode of the Ancient Coin Podcast, on the newest one. What was it, 65? Aaron?
65, yeah. Yeah.
It is summertime, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. The air is warm. It is fresh. It is enjoyable. Get out in it.
Fact. Yeah, get outside. All right, folks. Well, hey, thank you so much again. My mom's here. Hey, Mom, how you doing?
Hey, Mom.
But thank you guys so much. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, please go show him some respect. Go over and subscribe to the channel. When you watch the Coin Show podcast, do me a favor. Drop something in that says Frosty sent you. I want him to know that you're going over, you're looking at his stuff. Again, go check out Coin Show podcast. You guys are off next week.
We are off until mid August. We recorded last night, so there is a brand new fresh one that's coming up. I think Matt will probably get it edited today and up, but the raw live video from last night when we did it is up, and the episode will be up in the next day or so.
All right, sounds good. All right, folks. Well, I'm out of here. Thank you so much. Be well, be blessed, and we will see you.